what did your business look like prior to the pandemic? And where are you at now? So what does that look like now for you? Should we go the other direction now? Castro, would you like to start us off on that one?
Yeah. So before all this, we were doing really well. I mean, when we opened the restaurant, we actually took a different approach by not making it a big deal. We slowly kind of wanted to give ourselves a chance to grow the restaurant in a very organic way and grow the team in a very organic way. Because we were dependent on our catering business, we were able to do that. So we took the time and really worked very hard at the recipes and welcoming guests. And after about 8 months, we started an increase. We saw a huge increase in the amount of traffic coming through the restaurant. So by the time November came around last year, we were way up there. We had won a lot of awards, and there was this buzz about the restaurant. You know, most days we had lineups in the restaurant and whatnot. So it was a good feeling. And, you know, in February, we were finally starting to see that the restaurant was going to be kind of almost looking after itself, where it didn't depend on the catering anymore. So the catering was going to be more of our bread and butter. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, it all just stopped. You know, our catering business right now is completely done because wedding, there's no gathering anymore, and people aren't ready to be in close knit with other people. So most of our wedding got canceled. Most of our corporate business got canceled. I think in that first the first 3 weeks of COVID, we probably lost over $200,000 worth of business, of the summer business, which makes it very, very difficult because, you know, in our restaurant business, the margins are really small. So not having that already gained business, it's presenting it to be a bit difficult right now. So, you know, right now we've kind of scaled back and looked at the cafe as that's the main business for now, because we know the catering is not going to be around for a while. So for us, it's just how do we bring our food to the customers, whether if it's at home or even opening for dinner. So we've decided that we would continue to do our take and bake, where clients can get most of our dishes any 4 days of the week, and they can warm it up themselves. We've opened the cafe from Wednesday to Sunday for brunch, which is a really good thing for the neighborhood. You know, people want to get out themselves, so it's a good place for people to come to. And we've also decided to open for dinner. So as of next week, we're going to be open for dinner 3 days a week: Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. So it gives our community something, a place that they can still gather, because we still believe that, you know, we can still gather people in a safe environment. And with the reduction of tables, we're able to hopefully, you know, bring people together and feed them with some good food.
Well, glad to hear you're slowly reopening. And do you foresee the summer looking pretty much as it does now for the cafe?
You know, it's every day is different, and I think we're just blessed to be open. I think right now, you know, when we look at our forecast for the year, we're not going to hit our targets at all. It's just a survival mode now. The whole thing is, can we? How do we survive until this thing is over? And I think most restaurants are in the same kind of predicament. You know, when you don't have the business, the potential business that you were hoping to get over the summer, it's hard to look at what's going to happen in the future. But we're optimistic. We know that if we continue the path that we're going, things should get better. We just don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months.
Right. I think that's the state of the world right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, take it day by day, week by week. Thank you. And Kai.
Yeah, so I think for me to answer this question, it's important to explain what food in the cafe meant to me. So to me, food is really about social gathering and connection and feeding your body, but also feeding your soul. And so I think, you know, treats in moderation are a good thing, and healthy food is a good thing, and getting together with people is oh so important. So that was really the foundation for the vision of what Bakeology is it was meant to be a gathering place for our community. So people in our area, but also around Victoria, could come and enjoy the gorge, and people who live nearby could have somewhere to hang out, because there really wasn't anywhere to hang out in our neighborhood. Anyway, so really we built our business model and our staffing and the layout of the cafe around people coming to stay, and people of all ages and demographics and everything, to just have a place to chill. And that's what it was becoming. And I love that. Like, it just made my soul feel so happy, because we had so many people, elderly people from the neighborhood, and moms with babies, and people from the Songhees First Nations coming over the bridge to hang out with us, and from the school nearby. And it was exactly what I had envisioned. So that's definitely been the biggest change for us. I think because we were so new, the first couple years are financially horrifying and terrifying anyway. And so, I mean, this is just kind of another bump in the road for dealing with the financial stress of it all. But what was really challenging for us as a business, but also just on a personal level, was that immediate pivot of this not being a gathering place anymore right now. And I think it will go back, but yeah, so to have all your tables taken out, and, you know, the walking groups and paddling groups that used to come visit us, and the cycling groups, and the old people from Amica, which is an old age home, is right next door to us, for those of you who don't know the area. And it houses about 300 people who are largely over the age of 75. And they were in lockdown mode. So their families weren't coming to visit, they weren't coming to visit. So it was just a really big change in tone. And so really our immediate pivot was, how do we go from encouraging people to stay to being like, you got to get out, you can't stay here. And that was really hard, because we had put so much energy into encouraging people to come and linger. So what we did in that immediate shift was we offered bulk baking for people who were in lockdown mode really nearby, because that was something that our regulars were asking for. So people could buy, you know, things to freeze, things to take out, comfort food sort of stuff. And then we kept our takeout service going. But yeah, so that was a shift. And we work with an amazing local roastery, Stick in the Mud, and I would highly recommend them. They're incredible. And they've been really supportive too, and just kind of, you know, keeping us upbeat and making sure we have what we need from them. So that was huge. But yeah, and then the other part that was really hard for me business wise, but also just interesting to see how it played out in the community, was one of our main philosophies is to try not to waste very much. So we really encourage people to have mugs here to stay, which we couldn't do, and to use personal mugs, which we couldn't do. So all of our takeout stuff is compostable, which helps, but just the volume of disposable things that happened in this window was just so shocking to see. And an interesting thing to talk to our customer base about too. So that was another big shift, was just the volume of garbage, albeit most of it compostable, but still that was created because of it. So yeah, those are the main things I'd say.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear from both of you, Castro and Kai, on still remaining positive through all of this, and acknowledging the challenges, but addressing them as well. So yeah, turn it over now to Cliff.
Hi, yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and I think it's true, we're still in the process of seeing like the next year. I think we're going to be in this for another 6 to 12 months easily, and that's part of the challenge too, is getting to here and now trying to figure out how to navigate the next 6 to 12 months. We essentially I have 2 retail locations, and then AGRIUS is a little more composed, not quite fine dining, but more composed and full service dining, extensive natural wine list, and then Paul's Diner was organic diner food. And as COVID hit, we closed both the restaurants. And about a week later, we closed one of our locations and just ended up by having the downtown location open for really like basic service. And at that point, a lot of it was to do with trying to understand how we can protect our city and our community and our staff as best as possible. And so lots of separation, lots of hand washing, and rigorous safety protocols, communications being a big challenge. How to, pre-COVID, we had about 70 employees. So trying to communicate with everybody effectively as changes are happening. And then also like checking in with everyone who, trying to take care of all of our staff. And in the beginning, as people didn't know what kind of government support was coming through, and then trying to navigate government support as it was rolling out, and trying to help our staff with that. It's been a big challenge. We ended up we ended up by just having 1 retail location and a skeleton crew in both bread and pastry, and in retail there with just service at the door. And I think from like coming from myself, having gone from like growing the business from essentially like a 1-person operation to larger, did help to like have flexibility to shrink down. And a lot of it's just been coming down to like core services. So my main background is in bread baking, and that's been like kind of what has kept us going through all of this. And we mill our own flour as well. And so we've been supplying lots of flour to the city, and lots of baking tips. We're giving out starter. I have my own sourdough starter. I've been keeping going for over 20 years now, handing out lots of that. So a lot of it is community based and trying to take care of people the best we can. And at this point now, we've opened up both of our retail locations again. Paul's is remaining closed for now. That's another kind of complicated situation. And then AGRIUS, we're open for pizza 7 nights a week. And that was based on, when we opened AGRIUS, it was an extension of me coming from working in farmers markets and connecting and trying to promote local food. And so pizza was an easy pivot for us. We mill flour and making dough for pizza, and then enables us to work with local farms. We have a full charcuterie program, so we get in pigs every week to process into salami and all sorts of cured meats. So using that on pizza as well as fresh vegetables has been a relatively straightforward pivot. We still, we're kind of struggling to get it as busy as we kind of need it to be. We really depend on the wage subsidy at this point to support our staff and to keep our doors open. So we feel like grateful to live where we are and be able to get that support. It's been difficult, getting it and weeding through, applications for that, but it's really what's kept us alive at this point. And then we're also now once a week we do a reservation only set course meals in our restaurant. That's again, kind of more composed dishes and wine pairings to go with it as well. And we've had a really positive response to that. And that also allows our cooks to, work, again, a little more process oriented with vegetables and local, ingredients that we can get in. So we really tried to look at like the basics of our business and what is the core of what we're doing. And we're trying to support local farms and provide food to our community.
Thank you so much. And I think it's so important that each one of you has really gone back to your vision and your values for why you're in the business that you're in, and stayed true to those even during these challenging times. It leads well into my next question. I have so many questions that I would love to ask you, but this being a food literacy webinar, just interested in hearing each of your philosophy on food, because you each come from such different backgrounds and reasons for getting to where you are now. I would love to hear a little bit more about that connection to food and what philosophy you bring.
I think I got into food from loving eating, and also, you know, like preparing food for those around me. Sounds like, you know, similar to everyone else on the panel here, we love to feed those around us. And I think that's where it comes from. And I also love fermentation, and hence getting into bread and working with elements of strong connection to the land and the farmers. And, you know, we have a wood-fired brick oven, so there's also a certain kind of like elemental aspect to it, and fermenting doughs. And, you know, fermentation is also an aspect we have through our restaurant as well. We do a lot of fermentation. And I think it's what, how we can work with flavors and foods and kind of manipulate them. It's, yeah, I think it's from a love of food and a love of taking care of people around us.
I love that. And yeah, thank you for bringing up fermentation too. It's been, I think, a little bit more trendy lately, but it sounds like that's been something that's been a part of your way of being for a long time. So that's great to hear. And anytime that you can pass that along to others.
It's interesting, as some of these aspects that, you know, even farmers markets, you know, when I was, you know, first started baking bread and selling at farmers markets over 20 years ago, you know, it was this small kind of group of farmers that I still buy produce from. And now farmers markets are popping up all over the place, and even issues of food sustainability that we've talked about for years, and trying to support local agriculture and our local producers, and things of, you know, for, you know, years, you know, we've talked about how we need to strengthen these systems and support, you know, other restaurants that are doing the same thing, and the culture around it. You know, because we may not be able to get food from California at some point, and for a long time that was, you know, seen as extremist or you know, kind of ridiculous. But I think now, particularly as we look into the next year, it's a very serious reality. And so now more than ever, you know, support local farmers and everything, you know, that goes along with that, with local food systems.
Thank you. That's such an important value. Yes, that is definitely where we're at right now, for sure. Castro, I'm really interested in hearing from you on your philosophy about food. I was so interested to read about your background and all the different places around the world that you've lived and been a chef. So interested in hearing how that's come into your philosophy around food.
I mean, my philosophy is still evolving. I think when we really look at what our food is, it's usually the people. It's the gathering of people is kind of where we start with our food. And when I say the gathering of the people, it's the staff that I've brought around myself. All of us have such a unique, different background. And I kind of like to have that, because when it comes to talking about food, we speak the same language. And I find now, you know, our food is really driven by culture, driven by where I'm from, and then it's finished by where we are right now. So we're taking a lot of flavors from, you know, from West Africa, from my travels through the Caribbean, from my chef, who's also a Japanese, his influence on techniques. And we're bringing that here, and then taking the local food that we're getting and kind of almost starting this new cuisine. You know, like I keep saying to the guys, this is the soul of a cuisine, because we're still trying to reinvent an idea of how do you serve mushroom with spices, because that's something that normally people don't think about at first, and or how do you serve vanilla with fish, because I grew up having vanilla all the time. I grew up having spices all the time. but now I'm on the West Coast where we have all this fantastic seafood. So I still have to be able to utilize it. And then as time comes by, the people that I've met here, you know, going back to the gathering, all the young men that I've met here who are foragers, they've taught me so much about being outside and all the great things that you can find on your walks. So now all this become a part of our food. So it's really a pride of culture, people, and where we at. You know, we try not to focus on things staying the same all the time. What we try to do is we almost, anytime we have bounty or stuff, we preserve it, because I grew up, everything is preserved. Where I come from, you know, nothing is thrown away. You use every bit that every vegetable that you have, you use it. So we kind of do the same thing where, you know, if we get sea asparagus, we're gonna pickle as much as we can so we can use it throughout the year. You know, fiddlehead, same thing. So our philosophy is really just a group effort, and really concentrate on what people are bringing to us. And you know, we buy food. We don't. That I've built with people. I buy more food on relationship. I've come to really gather these people around me who, you know, especially in these tough times, have come and supported us in so many ways. Not by buying our thing, but by being close to us and keep encouraging us to continue to push forward. So our whole philosophy is buying the best food we can find from our friends and family, putting it into a network of all our chefs being a part of it, and just really keep pushing the food forward. We can't describe our food in any way other than it keeps evolving every time, and it's all about taste.
Agreed. Isn't that why we all love to eat? It does come down to the taste. And I'm really curious. I can't wait to try vanilla and fish together. I've got to look into that a little bit more, I think. Sounds very interesting, intriguing. Thank you, Castro. And Kai, what are your thoughts around philosophy on food?
My philosophy on food is kind of convoluted, I think, because of my background in health. And to me, I think at its core, it's like fuel, but fuel wrapped in joy, because food should be enjoyed, right? And things can be healthy, but also wonderful at the same time. And I think part of that wonder is the bringing together of people. And whether you're eating dinner meals, or whether you're eating wonderful home-baked bread, or whether it's coffee and baked goodies like we have. So I think my philosophy has always been to enjoy the process of food, whether it's from the very get-go of cooking it, you know, enjoy the process of slowing down and baking your own things, or making your own dinner, and sourcing your own ingredients, and pull out those old recipes that you love that somebody else you knew and loved made, and re-enjoy them. And so I really tried to weave in what I know about health into some of my stuff. So, you know, making healthier versions of things. So adding, you know, nuts into things that might typically have a lot of white flour, or, you know, adding lots of dried fruits and veggies and things like that, or having treats for the sake of them being treats. And that's okay too. But yeah, I think it was definitely that combination of loving the process of making food and wanting to share it, but also wanting to honor my background and knowledge in health and food literacy and health literacy, and bringing those together in our place. So yeah, and I think people have liked that combination so far. It's been good.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for sharing. I think so much of what you say is so important around sourcing local, and back to basics and sourcing ingredients, and so important for our well-being, beyond our physical health for sure, but that social connection to food, we can't, I think we can't underline that more during these COVID times. I think the sharing of so much over food is something that I think everyone is so eager to get back to. And so that kind of leads me to one last question. And I think one thing that I think is most important is, how can we as a community at this time support you, the local business owners, in keeping afloat? We want you to be there as a gathering place, as a place to taste and experience food in a whole new way. So do you have any thoughts on that? How can we as a community help your business at this time to remain viable? Kai, can I go to you first?
Sure.
This time around?
I guess there's sort of two parts to my answer. The first would be just to get out, to go somewhere, pick your favorite places, or pick somewhere you've always wanted to try, and you don't have to go big and buy massive gift cards or wanted to go to, or that you like going to, because as long as people keep trickling in and trickling out, then we'll be able to survive, right? And if people stop coming, then we won't. So I think, yeah, and it's good for everybody to see faces, even if you have to see them from 2 meters away. It's nice just to be around other people and catch up with your regulars and that kind of thing. And I think the second part to my answer is to think a little bit outside of the box in terms of ways that you can support small businesses and food services, and ways that maybe what we do connects to other aspects of the food chain within Victoria or within BC. For example, we had a few people who came together as a group, and they were very worried about us closing because we closed for about 2 weeks, and they went, "Oh my gosh, don't close forever, what's happening?" And they pulled together a bunch of money, and originally they were like, "Well, can we just give it to you?" And I was like, no, that seems weird, that's unnecessary. So what we came up with, and what's worked really well for everyone involved, was that they bought the sum of food stuffs that they wanted from us, and then I got to choose somewhere to donate it. So we've been donating to Kool-Aid every other week. And so these people just say, you know, we want to support you as a small business. I want to support my neighborhood and the people in Victoria. So that was a really kind of interesting thing that these people came up with that helps me as a small business, because I get to keep baking, I get to keep my staff busy, we get to keep our doors open, and we get to keep, you know, selling things, but it also is kind of paying it forward because we get to drop it off for other people in the community who are also in a really hard way right now with all the shelters and things closing. But there's lots of different ways that those kinds of things could get paid forward, and different ways that we can share food in the community right now without having to do it the traditional way, I guess is where I'm going with this. And I think the more creatively that people can think about ways to share food and to kind of bump it down through that chain, the more likely we are to do all right through this COVID period, and the more likely whoever we pass it on to is going to fare well too. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful community story, and it goes to show that people have been so creative and so generous too, where they can be for those who can during this time. So that's a lovely way to share all those wonderful baked goods. And Cliff, would you like to comment at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because most people are struggling to some degree or another through all this. And it's definitely where we're all like connected through this, and food is a lot of what brings us together. And yeah, like buying gift certificates helps. Any takeout, definitely getting out and supporting. I think also like helping to communicate and convey what is going on, because we're, you know, I think it sounds like all of us are doing new things constantly, trying to, you know, offer something new, or you know, what else is gonna, so being part of that dialogue, both of like what is gonna help the community, and then to also like tell your friends like what is, like when you're going out and experiencing something that's great and making you whole and helping you feel connected and alive, to tell all your friends also. And that also is part of what keeps food culture alive in our city. So I think that, and you know, obviously having patience when in spaces, because it is hard. Like I think one of our biggest challenges is working with staff who are working with public, and a lot of it is very gratifying, as we've been feeding, you know, people and families that, you know, have been customers for a long time, and people are very grateful for that. But when we're also dealing with, you know, aspects of the population sometimes that are not aware of what's going on, like really, like this has been going on for months and still feel like not necessarily waiting in line and spacing out and making sure, you know, we're not touching things that we're not supposed to. And even helping, I think, you know, like you know, right now staff essentially are having to like create public safety by, you know, monitoring what people are touching, and we like spell it out, and there's arrows and there's lines, what to do, and then some people calmly, supportively trying to convey these things. And when other people are stepping in and saying and pointing out sometimes the obvious, you know, to, you know, their fellow people in a, you know, supportive way, it really helps that, like, for people to understand how we're all connected and we're all in this together. Like when people are wearing masks, they're wearing those to protect everybody else, and all these aspects. And it, you know, it's really hard, I think, when it all falls on service staff to be kind of like holding the line. So I think as everyone is participating in that, it becomes less like the staff are trying to police people, and like as a community, we're keeping everyone safe. And so I think those kind of things are a great help.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Cliff. And I think that patience and kindness, and just reiterating that, that is really important.
Yeah, because it's stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for those workers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, who are basically on the front lines. Yeah, trying to hold the line for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kai, sorry, did you want to add something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, and thanks, Cliff, for bringing up the patience thing, because that was huge. And patience for staff, but also patience for the process that food services and really all kind of customer service are going through right now. I think to remember that we have families too, like we're homeschooling our kids and we're, you know, working our 50-hour weeks and stuff too, and that there's only so much that can be done in a week all the time right now, and that the process changes really rapidly for us. So that patience and kindness, I think, is twofold important. Also because I think many people coming through the doors of restaurants and stores maybe don't know the extensive list of things that we're expected to do, and how quickly that changes. Like it changes every, you know, few weeks or a month, where we have to go back through and redo signage and retrain staff and, you know, do those things. And so just to have that extra ounce of patience with the process of reopening, I think is really important. That you're probably not going to see all your favorite things, and it might be because people are operating with half the staff they normally do, or maybe there's a link in their supply chain that's been messed up during all of this, and it's not because they don't want to serve you well, it's because at this time it's just kind of strange, right? And so eventually things will pick up pace, but that patience is so key, whether you're dealing with the counter staff or a server or just the process in general. Yeah, so thanks, Cliff, for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Castro, what would you like to add?
I would say the same too. Patience for staff, and also patience for other patrons who's in the restaurants. You know, all of us are on a different comfort level with this thing going on. You know, we have a lot of older demographic who comes to the cafe, and we want to make sure that they feel safe when they come in. So, you know, if you feel very comfortable and you feel like there's no cases on the island and you can walk around, you should still protect other people by, you know, watching your distance, by making sure that you're at a safe distance with other patrons at the cafe or any other place. And then the other thing that we as a industry is facing is, you know, minimum wage has gone up, right? Which means there's an added cost. So with having 50% of their capacity and then having wages go up, you the cost of doing business is higher. The cost of doing business is higher because even now with all the cleaning and the cleaning that we have to do, so people's restaurants prices are going to go up, and that's just something that, you know, I think restaurateurs been holding their prices for a very long time, and now that those prices has to go up, so people have to be aware that there is a cost to do a business, and understand that we're not just out there trying to gouge anybody. We're just trying to keep the doors open, because to be very honest, I don't know a restaurateur that I've talked to in the last 6 weeks that are talking about making profit. It's all about how do we survive through all this. So, you know, consumers have to know that that's going to be something that will be happening. And then I want to encourage people that are in the industry, you know, like you should go out and support other restaurants, because it starts with us, right? We as an industry have to be out there supporting each other, making sure that we're going to the restaurants so other people can follow. Like my wife and I, every chance we get now, we're actually even seeing how much more important it is to go out and go to restaurant, because they need us as much as we need them. So I do encourage everybody out there who's in the industry to, you know, to think about that. Like, you're a part of this situation, and the only way we're all gonna get back to our jobs is if we all support each other and encourage. You know, when I go and see a place busy, I want to be in there. So the more places that are busy, the more we're all gonna want to go out and enjoy. And you know, it's not just supporting your favorite restaurant; it's supporting all restaurant, because everybody needs the help. There's not a restaurant on the island that's not affected by this. So yeah, go out, and any little place that you can support, please support them, and be patient while you're there, because we are really working hard to try to get back to the level. You know, most of us have lost the momentum, which is very, very difficult to get back, but I'm sure we're all trying our best to get back. And, you know, if I had any wish this year would be is that every restaurant somewhat stays sustained, to be able to be back at full capacity next year. And
thank you so much, and thank you for bringing up the reality of the cost. And Cliff, I was really interested to read on your website your note on that, saying that costs, it is going to go up, and we just want to be giving the same value to our customers.
That's something we put in place maybe about 3 weeks ago now. We started paying our staff about 20% more, and raised prices about 25%, between 20 and 25%, to help cover that and all the other operating costs. And we were like quite transparent about that. We also took increased people's wages and eliminated tipping, because at this point in time we felt people need a living wage and they need to be able to count on that. And it's, you know, most of our staff were tipping well anyway, but then, you know, it's quite emotionally draining when they're trying really hard and doing everything in this, and then, you know, And then when people don't tip well or complain and people are depending on that to live, it's a terrible dynamic to have. So we just, pay people a living wage and then charge accordingly, like a lot of business models work. Most people have been actually very supportive. Like, we're very community driven and we have a lot of long-term customers. People have been very supportive. We have a few people that don't understand or are not sympathetic, but like 98% of people have been very supportive of what we're doing, and because they want to see us on the other side of this, and want to see us keep our doors open, like Castro's been saying. Yep.
Well, I look forward to seeing all of you. And thank you for supporting our community in such an important way, in the ways that you've said, being such an important connection point, delicious food, supporting other local businesses just as much as your own. So thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing through these challenging times. And I hope that we as a community can support you to, like you said, get through to the other side and enjoy it along the way. Come in and have some good food at all of your businesses. So I really want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time today to talk to us.